for you today. So today we're going to look at Unit 10. We are still practicing the present perfect, and this time we're going to see it with more adverbs. Now, these are the adverbs that we're going to learn to use today. Now, remember that last time in Unit 9, we saw these three adverbs, already, yet, and still. And I told you that sometimes we can use the present perfect to talk about something that happened in the past, but we never use a time expression because we cannot say exactly when we did it. And that's why we were using already, yet, and still to specify an idea or give an idea of when it happened. Because with the present perfect, we cannot really express something like yesterday or last week because there's always a connection with the present. In the case of already, yet, and still, the connection to the present was that we did this action sometime before the present. Now with the next adverbs that we're going to learn, there is also a connection with the present. So we're going to see the first ones that are twice, many times, and often. Okay, so let's see these first. So twice, many times, and often, we can use it for affirmative statements, and these two we can also use for questions, okay? And twice and many times, or it can also be several times, we're going to place it at the end of the sentence. Often, we're going to place in the middle. Remember, when I say in the middle, what I mean is in the middle of the two verbs, in the middle of the have or has and the past participle. And the meaning of these three, twice, many, often, or several times, is that an action was repeated in the past, okay? But it has a connection to the present because maybe we can repeat it. So here's an example. We have three things, the same action that we did 3 times in the past, okay? But maybe we are going to repeat it now in the present. And we cannot say exactly when in the past we did it. So let's take a look at the example of twice and many times. Here's one example. I have been to Antigua many times, or several times, or twice. Replace it at the end of the sentence. When I say that I have been to Antigua many times, it means that I repeated this action in the past many times, but I will probably do it again in the future, okay? I can also add a time expression, but the time expression has to be open. What does open mean? It means that it is not finished. For example, this year. Is this year finished? No, not yet. So I can go to Antigua another time this year because it's not finished. So I say, I have been to Antigua many times this year, and maybe I will go again, okay? And to use often, remember that we place it in the middle. So I say, I have often traveled to Antigua, okay? Which means that I have done this many times and I will probably do it again in the future. So those are the first 3 adverbs that we're learning. Let's move on to the next 2 that are always and never. Now, always and never, we're going to use them with affirmative statements, okay? They always go in the middle of the verb, and the meaning just means that the action continues in the present, okay? So here's an example. I have always loved my parents, okay? So it has an affirmative meaning, and it means that in some moment in the past until now, this action is true, and it continues to be true in the present. Now, when I use never, never has a negative meaning, okay? But the verb, you see here, the verb is in affirmative. I cannot say I haven't never gone because that would be a double negative, okay? This verb stays in affirmative, and all I have to do is add never, and add never changes the meaning to negative. So I say I have never gone to Brazil. So in all my life, this statement is true until the present. Let's move on to the next 3 adverbs on our list that are just recently and lately. Now, just recently and lately, we're going to use them for affirmative statements, and recently and lately we can also use for negative statements. Now, just is going to go in the middle. Take a look at this. Have just returned. Recently can go in the middle, or it can also go at the end of the sentence. I have recently done a test, or I haven't eaten sushi recently, in the middle or at the end. And lately can only go at the end of the sentence. I have done a lot of homework lately. Okay. Now these 3 have the same meaning. The meaning is that these actions happened in the near past, so very close to the present. Here's the example, okay? Not here, but very close to the present. So let's take a look at the examples we have. I have just returned from Hawaii. I cannot say exactly when because I never use an exact past time expression with the present perfect, but when I use just, what I'm trying to say is that it is very close to the present, to when I'm speaking, okay? So I have just returned from Hawaii. Recently, remember, I can use it with affirmative or negative, so I can say, I have recently done a test, so very close to the present, or I haven't eaten any sushi recently, again, close to the present. And finally, lately has the same meaning, but it always goes at the end. I have done a lot of homework lately. I cannot say yesterday or last week, but I can say lately, meaning that it is very close to the present. Or I haven't seen Thomas lately. Maybe I saw him here, but very recently I have not seen him. Okay, so that is how we're going to use just recently and lately. Okay, next up on our list is ever. Okay, now ever, we are only going to use it for questions, only for questions. And it always goes before the past participle in the question, okay? And what I'm trying to express with ever is at any time before now, before the present. So at any time before the present, okay? So here's the example. Have you ever seen Toy Story? So you see I have my yes/no question, helper, subject, verb, and ever always goes before the past participle and after the subject, okay? So have you ever seen Toy Story? What I'm trying to say is that at any point before the present, did you see this movie? Okay? So have you seen Toy Story? Have you ever seen Toy Story? And you can give short answers. Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Or I can say, no, I've never seen it. Or I can just say, no, never. Okay, that's another way of answering. Instead of saying, no, I haven't, I can say, no, never. Another example. Has she ever played chess? Again, at some point in the past, before the present, has she ever played this game? So has she ever played chess? The answer, affirmative, yes, she has. We can also say, no, she hasn't. Or we can say, no, never. And the last one on our list is so far. So far is always going to go with affirmative statements, and it can be at the end of the sentence or at the beginning of the sentence, like a normal time expression. And this means that it is a repeated action that will continue. Okay? So here's the example. A repeated action that will probably continue. Okay? So let's take a look at the 2 positions. It could go at the beginning or at the end. So I say, so far, I have been to Antigua twice, okay? So it means that at some point, I went to Antigua 2 times, and I will probably go again this year. That's why I say so far, because it is a repeated action that will continue to happen. I can put it at the beginning, or I can say, I have read 100 pages so far, okay? And it says, I will finish tomorrow because I will continue reading more pages to the future. Another example, so far, I have taken 50 photos and the trip isn't finished, okay? Because the trip isn't finished, I am trying to say that the photos will still be taken. I will continue to take photos. So far means at some point in the past until now, I have done this action. I have taken photos, but I will continue to take them. So you see, when I place it at the beginning, I put it with a comma. When I place it at the end, I don't.